The second line. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And this is the mind, the immeasurable mind of compassion, great compassion for all sentient beings. And the next line. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. So this sort of has two. It's the, it's the immeasurable mind of joy that's really joyous for other people's happiness, and it's this reminder that we want everyone to reach a state where there's never suffering again. That which is enlightenment. So. And then the next line, may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. That's sort of self-explanatory. So, the mind of equanimity is where all our practices start. Even though we say it at the end in a prayer, it's actually where, when you're trying to develop the mind of compassion or love, you start with equanimity. You remind yourself that this isn't just, this isn't about our labels, about who helps us, who doesn't help us, who we like to spend time with, who we don't like to spend time with. This is about everybody, because everybody suffers. No one likes it, and that the way we don't know what we're doing, we're chasing actually suffering. All those false refuges are suffering. I mean, that's what they are, the suffering of change. And then, so we're never going to get there as long as that's what we keep chasing. And we'll never be satisfied because there's no possible way for those things to satisfy us, in spite of how hard I try eating chocolate. It's just never happening, So we really want to recognize that when we see someone else, total stranger, somebody on TV, doesn't matter where, that they are exactly like you in wanting to feel good, not wanting to feel bad, and wanting to experience only gain and not loss, and that they want to have pleasure, not suffering. They want a good reputation, not a bad reputation. They want praise, not criticism. The 8 worldly concerns are worldly because it's everybody. So we can make that connection of common ground with every being that crosses our view, that we hear, whatever way in which we have some sort of contact. If we can remind ourselves you're stuck in the cycle of suffering just like I am, may I be of benefit. And there's nothing in it for you except future happiness. You need a hook. It creates the cause for us in the future, to have happiness. Just like the mind that wishes to harm is going to cause us suffering. The mind that wishes to help is going to bring us happiness. We don't know what we're doing exactly, but hey. Okay. So now let's recite Refuge and Bodhicitta prayer, and I won't make you pause. So I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So it's a new year. Feels just like the last one. So.
Only better?
No.
Okay.
It's still samsara. My neck's still throbbing, I still have a million complaints. None of them do me any good at all. So you had to have one word. I can't do these exercises, so that's why I'm leading them and not participating. If you only had one word to describe where you are at the flavor of this week, where are you? Have you checked?
A little tired.
Tired? Did you play a lot with your granddaughters?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Good. Tired. Tired, mentally tired or physically tired?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
A lot of things have been happening. I got sick. My sort of father, whatever, relative.
Some relative.
Yeah. Daughters, but and others. Everybody's been getting sick and in the hospital, and there's been a lot of suffering going around.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, before I came back, I had gotten all these text messages, of people in great suffering here, and it was just like, oh my God, what's happening? you know. So, but of course, this is what happens every single day. I looked it up one time. It's something like there's 700 and something deaths a day in the US, around the world, it's huge, So it's this reminder that just this moment, right this moment, somebody's dying and all their loved ones are going into a new chapter in their life, beginnings and endings. So it's so getting caught up in our whatever we're worried about, it's helpful to remember this again, just remembering. Oh my goodness, there are people who are in the hospital, there are people who are dying, there are people really suffering. Let me be there for them. Let me say a prayer for them, So instead of chasing false refuges, we can try to replace it with, oh yeah, that's right. I could take a moment to just pause and think about others. I could take a moment and think about how can I help someone today? And if you think like doing something like smiling when you go for a walk to other people, that you run across doesn't help. As someone who walked every day during COVID, just so I'd see another human being, I can tell you that's not true. Smiling at people can help, especially if you smile without any expectation of them returning it or saying something to you, if you just smile, because that doesn't require any effort on their part. And they may not have that energy. So. I'm looking at my notes for today. And this is what I don't look very interesting at the moment.
Go off script.
Go off script. I never do that. Never, ever. I wanted to bring up just this idea of the differences between self-centeredness and self-grasping. Because we can kind of sometimes conflate the two. We think they're the same thing. And some people are looking at me like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So self-centeredness and self-grasping are not the same mind, okay? Self-grasping is something we all want to abandon because it's our ignorance. It's the root of being stuck in the cycle of suffering. It's not helpful at all. It's a mistake. It is confusion. Self-centeredness is not something we abandon. Okay? It's not considered an affliction. Anybody else shocked? So all those times you beat yourself up for, for your self-cherishing, self-centered mind, you can let that go because it's so easy to do. Anyway, what does self-centeredness get in the way of? Other people. In what way does it get in the way of other people?
I want to satisfy myself, regardless, I guess, of other people.
Yeah, which we see ourselves as more, more important, and our happiness more important, and all those kinds of things. Okay, so who does that get in the way of? You might know this.
Repeat the question.
If you listen, who does that attitude get in the way of?
Yourself.
In what way? This is that pop
It's
quiz.
an obstacle to your own enlightenment.
There we go. So bodhisattva, if you want to develop bodhicitta, which is the wish to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings, and you can also lead them to enlightenment, you must care about others more than yourself. However, don't lose sight of the fact that you have to become enlightened. Whose welfare does that benefit?
Everyone.
And the first person?
Yourself.
Yourself. So we have to accomplish, they always talk about bodhicitta, that ephemeral they, and, my teachers, that bodhicitta has two aspirations. That includes accomplishing our own welfare and then accomplishing the welfare of others. Because that's how it works. It's the old, the air mask, oxygen mask falls out of the ceiling, and you put yours on first, and then you help the person next to you. So, same kind of thing. So bodhisattvas do need to abandon this coarse, self-centeredness, which is, that thing that we see in children, particularly self-preoccupation. I was reading something today that said, not today, but anyway, coarse self-centeredness is the self-preoccupation that we see in children, and that as adults we learn to hide, although it is present. So, and coarse self-centeredness is at the bottom of all our destructive action. We harm others for the sake of ourselves. We try to get what we want. We're greedy for the sake of ourselves. Our mine are included, my children, my partner.
What about self-care?
Self-care.
That's not self-centered.
Well, it depends on, of course,
You have to care for
definitely.
yourself before you help others, though.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's still self-centered. That's all just semantics. We do need self-care. That's that we have to take care of our own welfare in order to benefit others. And it comes by degrees, right? Well, let me get through these first things. So middling self-centeredness, as opposed to coarse, is that mind that, does their practices, they know about karma, because they want a good rebirth. That's considered practicing the Dharma because you're looking forward to the future. You know, so everything we do just for happiness in this life is not even considered Dharma. Okay. Anyway, then subtle self-centeredness is what? What follows after you want a good rebirth? What's next? For those of you who've done a little study, wanting to be liberated. I want to get out of samsara. None of these. What's the difference between self-care and self-centeredness?
Motivation.
Motivation is part of it, yeah. So what's the motivation for self?
Natural way.
I'm sorry,
Natural way.
I don't know what that
Like
means.
the natural way is to take care of yourself.
Well, it's ignorance. It's what we do because we, you know, but what else is it? Okay, so one of the ways you can work with your motivation for self-care is you do it so that you can help others. If I don't get enough rest, I'll be of no use. I mean, we all think that from time to time, you know, I've got to go to sleep. I've got to get some sleep. I can't go out tonight. You know, I got to stay home and take care of myself. Self-care is not excessive. Self-centeredness, when you're starting to get over or gross self, you know, to the self-indulgence part. You know, so we need to be able to distinguish between self-care and self-indulgence. And these are all degrees, you know. When you're on vacation, you know, it wouldn't make sense if you didn't have a little bit of pleasure from not working. You know, that's why we take vacations, or pleasure that we're able to spend more time with our family because we're not working. You know, this making any sense? Oh, I'm already hot. It's ridiculous. Okay. This is from His Holiness. I'm reading from I was reading a text. So in the West, many people believe that healthy self-esteem is demonstrated by being a unique individual. Let that kind of just sink in. I don't know. What does that mean to you? Being a unique individual.
That separates you so much from other people.
Separates you from other people, kind of makes you stand out, you know, that all that kind of stuff. That's how sort of how it seems to me. But for bodhisattvas, self-esteem is connected with extraordinary generosity and joyful relinquishment of self-centeredness. Anybody feel like they have some work to do? But this is what we mean when we're like correcting our motivation. We're really trying to train our minds to go here, go to this idea, you know, that my self-worth, I can judge my self-worth, my inner wisdom by how I take care of others, you know, am I generous, am I kind, am I patient, you know, all those kind of things, you know, and that, you know, our value is because of these things. So we can be confident that we're on the right track. Not prideful or afflicted pride, or you think that makes you better than others. The whole reason you want to benefit others as a bodhisattva is because you know they're just like you. They don't want to suffer and they only want happiness and they don't know what they're doing. You know, so you want to help. And so how we can help is also something a matter of degrees. when we're an ordinary being, and and our help is always going to be infused with our ignorance and also our lack of skillfulness, all those things. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't try, but we also should be paying attention of how others are receiving it, because that might give us some clues about our skillfulness or lack thereof. We really want to watch that mind that sees everything with other people as sort of emotional contract. I'll help you, so we kind of expect you to help us, later. Yes, I can come over with my truck, but I also move sometimes. So it's this tit for tat kind of thing, which you see a lot at Christmas. Where people go, I can't believe I spent all that time and effort looking for this present for these people, and all they sent me was oranges from Florida. I live in Florida. Why would they send me oranges from Florida? So, well, we actually take note. We might actually notice that. And we want to look at ourselves going, what are we doing? We are turning our generosity into poison. Because we're making it that contract. I've done my part of the deal. They're not living up to yours, so you're off my Christmas list. So we're back to that self-preoccupation as a child, that childish kind of, I shared, you should share too. So we want to develop self-confidence. Yes, Graziella.
I was thinking that sometimes you want to thank you, even though that's not something tangible, it's still just this.
It's kind of tangible. I mean, it may not be wrapped up in
Right.
paper, but you want to thank you. Yeah, sometimes we want to thank you, So what is that? What is wanting to thank you? How about expectation? Let's try expectation on. So, see, this is how we chase suffering. We think somehow we have to get something from the external stuff in order to feel okay. So we feel appreciation, or we feel acknowledgement or recognition. You gave this. There's absolutely no need for anybody to acknowledge it. You might inquire if they got the thing in the mail, but we need to really, and we have to know when we're asking that because we want to thank you. Oh yeah, I got it. Thank you very much. So we want, these are the ways in which we can just kind of, okay, check up here, not beat myself up now. That's not the purpose. The purpose is just to notice, oh, I just want, reward. And it's not necessary. And it's not, I really want to cultivate. Because my job is not to train others in good manners. Because that's how we rationalize it, isn't it? Well, it's only polite.
I thought that.
Yeah, only polite.
I thought it was a given to say thank you.
Okay, well, maybe, and hey, there's nothing wrong with it, is there? But to expect it from someone else, to cross someone off your Christmas list because they didn't thank you, you want to start thinking about. Why did you give in the first place? To give a thank you. Yes, it becomes glaringly obvious, doesn't it?
Well, it's the least.
It's the least they could do. Yeah. Yeah, this is keeping score is not a path to happiness. No. And why we think it is, I can't imagine. Because when we keep score, what do we usually end up with?
Deficit.
A deficit. Someone's a mom here, I can. So, I mean, we really need to think about, if we see them as ahead of you, you're not going to feel great. If you see you as ahead of them, you're not going to feel great. What's the point of that? This comparison game, this competitiveness we often see in our culture isn't a good tool to help us get what we actually want. I heard a story this morning about how there was a jewel thief who saw a merchant buy this beautiful big diamond or something, or not buy it, well, probably bought it wholesale. Anyway, he decided he was going to steal it. And I followed him around, looked all over for it, could never find it. And he finally went to the jeweler and said, to tell you the truth, I've been trying to find that jewel that you have. I could steal it, but I've looked everywhere. I can't find it. And the jeweler goes, I put it in the one place you'll never look. Your own pocket. This is what we need to remember. Our Buddha nature is within us. This is where all the happiness is. It's something we cultivate. The outer refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are, Shakyamuni Buddha, the teachings, the Sangha. The inner refuge is your future Buddhahood. So it's this, it's this confidence. I can get there if step by step I keep working on it. And I keep wanting to work on it. Doesn't matter whether it's the drop in the bucket or the, full on faucet filling the bucket. This is how we get there. We have to keep turning our mind in the right direction. So self-centeredness, is an obstacle to caring for others, but it's not something you just throw out because we need self-care. What we're trying to do is finally realize that we have enough, so I don't need to worry about self-care. I don't, I know how to do that part, or I don't have to worry. I remember, did I tell you all the story when Geshe told me that, when I was going to ordain, and my father said, well, what did he say? He said two things, but I remember the one about make sure you always have health insurance. I thought was exceptional advice in this country. Always make sure you have health insurance. And so I was telling Geshe about this, and Geshe goes, well, the good news is by the time you're old and you need those kinds of things, your father will be dead and he won't be worried. Okay, that was reassuring. And you'll have practiced, and so you won't worry. That has not happened yet, but anyway. But bodhisattvas, I mean, this is the beauty of it. As you work more and more towards that, just, really wishing that not wishing, as you develop confidence that helping others, thinking about others more than yourself, exchanging, equalizing and exchanging yourself with others, where you put your others foremost in your mind, is the path to happiness. And so slowly, that thought of you doesn't arise very often. And so then you're not worried. You take care of yourself because you have to be able to help others, but it's not a focus of your mind. You can easily set aside your own needs, both physically and mentally, because at that moment, someone else's needs are greater. And that doesn't wear you out, because working for others brings happiness. And happiness doesn't mean chocolate cake. It means that inner peace, wisdom, and this confidence that we can end suffering. And this part of the way. So it's all a matter of degrees, Takes us, well, some days we just don't believe it at all. Or we kind of don't care. I don't care if the path to happiness is benefiting others. I want this now. So you call your best friend. So. But the wonderful thing is, the more we put others foremost in our hearts, or first in our hearts, the more we see how much we can rely on them. That instead of isolating ourselves or cutting ourselves off, that we can, the more open we stay, the more supported we are. However, if we keep score, it'll never seem to work out. The self-grasping, which is not self-centeredness. It's sort of our root confusion. So what is self-grasping? For those of you who kind of know something about it. I did say had the mind of not knowing, didn't I? Yeah.
Like thinking you're eternal and you're never gonna die.
Well,
Or
your
never
mind's
wanting
never going to
to.
do that. So no,
Thinking you're permanent.
that's part of it. What's wrong with the idea of thinking you're permanent? I'm sorry, it's false. It's erroneous. It's a mistake. All right. What is it they're really getting at here? It's a sense of there's this permanent, there's a permanent tendron, that if you got to know me well enough, you just know that's tendron. We feel that about ourselves. It's almost like a separate entity, happens to be housed in this body, but there's something substantial that is who we are. I never do that because that's not who I am. That kind of identity, which is what gives rise to the indignation when we're accused of something we didn't do. How could you think I would do that? I'm not like that at all. So the Buddha said, yeah, we grasp at that self, and that self does not exist. What else about self-grasping? What else what are we grasping after? Permanence, but what else? Inherent. So we think, yep. Reputation. Well, that's our personal favorite affliction to hold on to. All the 8 worldly concerns, but reputation, apparently, the Buddha said, is our last one we let go of. I don't know, is that something to do with wanting to put on makeup while you're dying in the hospital? So I know I come up with silly ideas, but I've known people like that, that they can't see anybody because they haven't put their face on yet. Can't you just see the little face in the closet? So, okay, so inherent existence. So sort of when you were saying permanent, we're kind of getting at this notion of inherent existence. That means there's something from the side of me that is Tendron, even though that's been my name only for 22 years, So We grasp after that kind of self. What else can we say about inherent existence? What is it? What are we? We're grasping as if we are inherently existent, and we're not. So what does that mean? What is a quality that we all have and that all things have?
Impermanence.
That's one.
Empty.
We're empty of inherent existence. It's an absence of something. We don't have that. We think everything has it, and nothing has it. We don't inherently exist. The cup doesn't inherently exist. It's very easy to see with things like a cup, because you can see that this wasn't always a cup. This was the materials that it's made out of before it was a cup. And when it wasn't made into a cup, it couldn't hold anything, So, it's not inherently a cup. Yet I really think of it as an inherent cup. And when I lose it, I get rather, uncomfortable. So, or disappointed. Oh, I'm gonna have to drink out of regular glass, and the water won't stay cold.
That be an attachment problem?
Yeah, that's an attachment problem. Yes, absolutely. And it's partly because I'm attached to the idea that getting the cool water that I want to drink is a source of happiness. And it's not true. It's a false refuge.
It is a nice cup.
It is a nice cup. Yes, and I think it's probably Nicole's, because she got me one just like hers, and then one went missing, and I have a feeling that I just took hers.
It's not necessarily a nice cup to everybody.
Right,
So it's not inherently existing as a nice cup.
that's right. In fact, it's not even inherently existent as anything, because inherent existence doesn't exist. So I feel like something's caught my arm around the thing. Okay. So self-grasping underlies our confusion about what are the causes of happiness, what are the causes of suffering. We grasp, as soon as we grasp the self, where does everybody else fall? Outside of us? What's their name? Other. You. Not me. So what does that do? How does that separate us?
Once you make that separation, you tend to consider other people's suffering not important.
Or at least we put our own suffering. So we consider other people's suffering not important. We elevate the importance of our own suffering, don't we? It's just like, well, I worry about myself. I don't worry about myself. Nobody else will. All that kind of thoughts. So we grasp after taking care of this self, nobody else's self, this self. Thank goodness there are mothers who take care of other selves, or none of us would be here. What is it about self-grasping, unlike self-centeredness, we must eliminate? Why? Because it's incorrect. There is no permanent, independent, self-sufficient self to grasp onto. We've made it up. It's a total story that we make up. I heard a phrase that we become either intoxicated by our, fears, or intoxicated by our stories about this self. And from that confusion about how we exist, that somehow we're not interdependent with every other being on the planet and on the universe, we don't take care of each other. We forget the kindness of others. We forget how much we depend on others. Yeah, Mary.
Can't we self-care about ourselves and still feel connected?
Yes. Yeah, that's why self-care is not self-grasping. That's why self-centeredness is not even self-grasping. They're two different things. First you self-grasp and then you self-cherish. It's like there's something to cherish. There's something to grasp onto, you know. So it's this, they work together, our self-grasping and then our self-centeredness, but they're just not the same.
So can't we be individuals yet be a part of each other?
It seems pretty obvious. We are like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is not the meaning.
Um,
This idea of inherent existence. We really have self-grasping. Inherent existence is this idea that I am self-sufficient. I'm independent of others. And it also kind of implies there's this unchanging part of us that is our nature, none of which is true. And this is why we do exercises where we meditate on how every article of clothing we came was, I mean, we couldn't, all the things in this room, all the tangible form objects, our bodies came from someone else, didn't they? Two people, right? I mean, we literally are made up of the DNA of two other people who were made up of DNA of two people before them, you know, so it goes back a long time. So everything in this room was produced, right? How many beings, how many people do you think were involved in the production of all these things? Numerous. You really couldn't count them. You couldn't figure it out. Isn't that wonderful? All these people helped us create this space. And we forget that, don't we? They're not important.
Barely remember who helped direct. Now imagine indirectly.
Where did we put this? Yeah, this is the thing. And this is why mindfulness is about remembering. You know, we want to remember just how much we depend on others. And we could be mad about that, or we can embrace it. You know, as opposed to beating ourselves up when we can't do something by ourselves. As we age, a lot of people have really struggled with that transition between being able to do things yourself and then not being able to anymore. I had to laugh. I got this, you know, I'm going to have neck surgery. And I got this table that, well, actually, they're not related. I got a bed that goes up because I was having so much trouble with my neck. And then I got a table that rolls like a hospital thing, but it doesn't look like one, you know, because hey, I have my reputation to protect. Anyway, and so I haven't put it together. I haven't taken it out of the box. So I saw the surgeon on Friday, and I get home and I see the box and go, oh, and I start to take it out of the box, and I can't. It's too heavy. And the last thing the doctor said to me was, "Don't lift anything heavy." And wow, I mean, it's like, are you kidding? Not that you're supposed to sit in bed after surgery, you're actually not. So it's really not important. But it's very funny how we, you know, this sense of independence, we think happiness is there. You know, in that moment, I'm thinking, not being able to unpack this box and get this stupid thing out and put it together is interfering with my happiness. Why?
You want it now.
Because I want it now. Yes.
How about fear?
Fear's the biggest thing. Like fear in that moment is going on there, isn't it? What's really underneath that I want it now?
Fear of not having it.
Fear of not having it, fear of never being able to take it out of the box, fear of not having any friends who would help me, fear of actually having to call someone to ask them to help me. That's a big one on my list. I don't even like to call the repair person. I hate business phone calls. I'm really bad at it. I'm very uncomfortable. So, yeah, and that's fear. It's just all fear. Just like me showing up every Sunday is like terrifying. You know, I know you'd think I'd be over it. It's been what, 10 years? No, not over it. But I promise the path works. It's just sometimes it's a very small degrees. But the point, yeah, so fear is underlying, the fear that we're not enough, that we can't have enough, we'll never be satisfied with it, or we're gonna die, we're gonna, all these things. That's part of our grasping. Does grasping work? Okay, just getting mad about it work. What works?
Acceptance.
Oh, what a drag. Accepting our interdependence. We're not independent. We've never been independent.
You know, I think the country's in for a big wake up call when the new president sends back all the so-called immigrants out of the country. I think we're going to be shocked at how interdependent we are on all of these people who do all these things, like we said.
And we have to just bring that knowledge within, that we're do the same thing. This is why we can elect somebody who that's their basic thing, is that we're just going to get rid of everybody that we don't like. And it's not going to work. And it's not remembering how much we depend. We need to remember how much we depend. I have to remember, I really depend on the president of the country because I don't want to be it. Yes, feel free to quit that job. I don't want it. And in fact, one of the reasons I think we have questionable choices in people running the country is because most really smart, wise people don't want it either. So our selection, it's self-selection. So anyway, but mainly instead of turning our mind outward towards, okay, what's the country's problem? What else? We need to see our part in it. That's how we act. Every day we have some thinking that's going in that direction. That just sort of like, I shouldn't have anything go wrong today because, it's just too hard. I should be able to get everything I want when I want it because, why not? It's just, we have this endless desire for every moment to feel nice. And so when we get bored, we do something about it, and we all have our different preferences for that. When we need entertainment, we're just because we're bored. So all those things. Yes, please.
I was thinking about it. That was a mind blower to think about this room or anywhere we go and the number of people that brought this into being for us. And not wanting to be dependent, but we are. So is the opposite of that an extreme gratitude practice?
Well, it's gratitude and compassion. It's this attitude of just of like, wow, all these people help me. That's really amazing. I mean, it's just amazing. We also want, if you're thinking about Buddhism and karma and the whole big picture thing, we want to go, wow, I have these resources because of past positive actions. May I keep doing that, and and may I not have pride about that, because after all, most of those actions I wasn't, that permanent me that I grasp onto wasn't there. We want to have compassion for the state of all those beings, All those beings that help this come, do you think they're all like deliriously happy and have great resources and, get everything they want when they want it? You think they don't get, that they'll never get sick, they don't die? All those beings that help this room, all the stuff in this room are just like we are. They don't want to suffer. They want happiness, but they're stuck in this cycle of suffering. They're mistaking happiness, they're mistaking what appears to them as being happiness, so they chase after it, and it's actually suffering. We're addicted to pleasure, even from small scale, of just having that, particular coffee in the morning, not just any old coffee, the one we like, all through the day we do that. Good news is it's not all we do. We also help others. We're kind, we do, we participate in the production of all these things that, whether maybe at the moment your participation is in buying, but, all our jobs contribute to all of this, so gratitude and rejoicing that we have resources, and we want to make good use of our good resources, our good conditions, by showing up to a place like this and thinking about, oh, how can I change my mind to go in a better direction, so that I don't act out of fear or, dissatisfaction or feeling less than, or feeling more than. Respect. Okay, that was an answer to what should arise when we think about all these people. Yes. Yeah. Like, I'm always amazed when I think about all the things that I use, that the people making them may hate their jobs, and they show up anyway. And then all the people who not only maybe don't hate their jobs, but they cannot not go to work, even if they're very ill, or their partner is very ill, or their kids are very ill. They have, if they want to eat, they have to show up. So it's this, we tend to forget. We don't use this term. This is what I like. I don't know whether it's a Tibetan thing or Buddha thing, a translation thing of what it means in Sanskrit or other, but I think it is. I think it's from the Buddha's teachings. We don't see that as a kindness. We don't see people going to work as a kindness, even though we benefit from that kindness all the time. So this is one of the things, like if we're trying to increase our compassion, to go from me and mine, my friends, to expand it out to where we can include everybody. One of the techniques is the sevenfold cause and one effect, or sevenfold cause and effect. That's what it is. Where we try to envision all sentient beings of having been our mother in some past life. We also have one in this life. And then we think about all their kindnesses, until we have that point of really wanting to repay that kindness. But the first, trying to see everybody as having been our mother, or our caretaker, the person who helped us still be alive today, that, if everybody played that role for us, we have sort of this unbelievable connection with everybody. And we can use that sense to kind of start developing affection for everybody. And when we see affection, it's easier to go to kindness instead of, well, they're just doing their job. We want to develop this understanding that everybody's participation in this interdependent group, it's a kindness that we receive benefit from them. It's a kindness that they take. Most people in the world get up every morning and do what they've been taught you need to do. You have to take care of your family. You have to get up. You have to earn a living. You have to, you have to go to school so you can learn and earn a living. It's all in stages. That you try to help others, not hurt them. You pay your bills on time, or you pay them when you can. Well, most people do these things. Why?
Because they have to,
In what way?
they want to eat. I mean, well, not really, but
But not really. You see, that's like the big key. Not really.
Most people. Percentage, but the majority maybe of people will do because that's self-centered.
Perhaps. I mean, certainly that's under all of our motivations for most things. But at the heart of it, what is it?
Expectation and.
They want to participate in society. Nobody wants to be the outlier, the outsider. Can I help with anything?
Inside, inside,
Okay.
inside. The black one.
I can't see. I feel so left out. Success?
Yeah.
Okay. So, we want to belong. In some neighborhoods, that means belonging to a gang. We do what the gang expects us to do. We really want to, we don't actually avoid the group. We become part of a group. So that's it's not some sort of like, oh, because they have to, but the truth is we kind of want to. We want to belong. Partly because our survival depends on it. We need friends. We need help. We're not independent. So it's really, in most of the world, fulfills that role. Now, granted, we use a lot of pressure, peer pressure, that people participate. We criticize everybody who goes out and just hangs on the street corner and begs for money. Like you'd want that job. But we look down on them because they're not doing their role. They're not playing the game.
It's also safer, no?
It's also what?
Safe to be in a group.
Of course it's
Like-
safer. This is one of those ways. Yes, we're interdependent. Exactly so. We need each other. And the truth is that the more that we accept that, so that we don't send all the immigrants out of the country. Anyway, can't tell my opinion on that. So, but I mean, the point is that this is one of the things that self-grasping doesn't help us. One of the ways in which it doesn't help us, I don't know, is that we join a group and then we grasp it. This becomes my group. And there are all these other groups. So we do the same me and you thing on a bigger scale. And then we even do it, like this is my country. It's better than your country. I don't know. We can just go on and on and on. As if like when you're on the, moon and you look back, you see boundaries. No, sorry, they don't exist. We make them up. It's another story we create and tell ourselves and grasp after.
Like the European Union.
Right. Now, there are practicalities for groups. There's no question about it. But the trouble is, is when we grasp at ours. It's the same thing with religion. When we have an affinity for a particular spiritual path, and then we grasp and we think people who are not following the same path couldn't possibly be going in the right direction. This is a problem. This is how we divide each other.
Look at the wars.
Yeah. And it's from that kind of opinion. So every time we have that thought in our mind of, oh, I'm just disdaining some other group or other person, or just kind of can't believe, someone asked me one time after I'd become a nun, I can't believe you go out of the house looking like that. Yeah.
What a nice thing to say.
Well, it's just such an honest thing to say. It just obviously we had to wait for 45 minutes for security to come make sure I was, not a terrorist. And, it was, and then she just finally looked at me. She goes, how do you do that? So I said, well, I don't have to look at myself at all. It's just your suffering, not mine. So, I mean, and it's true. I mean, this one, I don't think about it ever. It never comes up. And it shows you how, I mean, and it is true that I looked at myself in the mirror about as many times before I shaved my head as I do now, it's just not my thing. So, it's not because, I put on robes and I just don't think about the stuff. No, I grasp as hard as anybody else. So the beauty of recognizing how we do this, how we first want to belong, and then we grasp and we shut everybody else out. The more we realize all the different ways we do that, whether it's from putting ourselves in the group that doesn't have to be in a manufacturing job. We put ourselves in a group that, I don't know, think of I mean, when I was a teenager, I thought Southern accents that were from like Georgia, or Georgia was I was maybe Alabama. I was kind of close to Alabama. It's just they're outrageously different from Louisiana, right? Anyway, really showed how stupid and backwards they were, And that, which is me. I didn't recognize my voice on the recording because I really thought I can't be me. So I'm just making fun of myself. So, but we want to notice when we're doing that, when we've grasped onto some thing, some quality or perceived quality, some sliver, and either embrace them, but then grasp and shut everybody else out. Yeah.
What is it about tragedy or something extreme that brings the Buddha nature in people out? Like, I mean, I think it's down here, you can think about like when there's a devastating hurricane and all the power's out, how people just suddenly, not all people, some people go into the extreme, selfishness, but for the most part, people just become so incredibly kind to one another and, share food, or, oh, I've got a generator here. You can, put your food.
The chainsaw, we can help cut down the trees.
So, So what is it about that extreme suffering or extreme conditions that make people's Buddha nature arise?
Like it shakes you up a bit, like shakes you out of your apathy, like you're right.
And most of us can immediately imagine ourselves there, and how, because there's a part of us that reacts with sort of like, oh, I could never handle that. How are they handling that? How'd they handle the fear? There's just, I mean, it's not conscious really. It's not like we're sitting there, but those are the thoughts that are coming up. So it's that moment where we recognize the truth of suffering and that we're all the same.
Is it also more socially acceptable? Be neighborly, knock on your door, how you doing?
I think that because we want to belong, that's what makes it socially acceptable, because everybody wants to belong. Yeah.
Also, it's easier to see yourself as a good person than to see every which way in which you could
Oh,
apply it.
does anybody have self-loathing? I'm sorry, I don't think it's easier to think yes, we want to see ourselves as a good person, but I don't think we see ourselves as good people. And yet we do these things anyway.
Well, I meant like it may be more difficult to recognize how many opportunities you have to do good for another.
Oh, I think that's true. I mean, I think that we don't realize, first of all, because we don't really realize how interdependent we are, and that it matters. You know, like I said, like even just smiling while you walk around, you know, it might uplift someone, and that's helpful, you know. So yeah, we don't recognize how the potential that's always present for us to make somebody else's day better. We also don't recognize how much harm we do with the constant criticism of self and others, you know, in our head that's going on, this constant, you know, whatever it is. You know, you have to find your own flavor of that. Did you want to say something?
I just wanted to ask if maybe deep down inside, maybe it's a way of connecting with Buddha nature, but I think all secretly long to be superheroes for one another.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that is our Buddha nature. And I think that that's one thing, you know, when we're sitting here rejoicing about virtues and dedicating it to others, you know, the truth is, right at this moment, there are countless beings helping another being. And isn't that amazing? You know, it's marvelous. It's just like, and this is the manifestation of our Buddha nature. You know, that it's everybody has this. Some people, because of habits, you know, have turned towards a very dark place, and it may not manifest in this life, but it's still there. You know, because it's part of it is our nature. You know, it's like, and it's consciousness. That the basis of consciousness is this clear and knowing quality. It's not this mean and judgy quality, you know. That comes from our confusion. So yes, we're individuals, you know, but by practically mere name. It's just, you know, we're merely individuals. So this, yeah.
Empathy comes into play there somewhere.
Empathy, is that what you said? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and this is our children have empathy, you know, rats have empathy. You know, this is something that sentient beings, this is a quality that's there. You know, so we have to remember the Buddha said that, you know, I'm not sure he actually said this. I don't think I'm quoting the Buddha, but you know, that only difference between a mosquito mind and our mind is the sophisticated physical support that we have versus the mosquito. But the mosquito, when he's born a human, same, you know. So it's like, that's why we want a human rebirth, because we'll have the physical support to be able to use our good resources and our good conditions. And a mosquito cannot. It can just exhaust its whatever the negative karma for being born in that form for 3 days. You know.
Excuse me, and archaeologists found in Miami remains of skeletons, ancient, and one was severely disfigured. It could not, as an adult, could not have reached adulthood without support from the community.
Yeah, that's the way it is. It's like, you know, like the societies that, like in Australia, some of the Aboriginal cultures, you know, just walk their whole, you know, it's like they didn't clean out, they didn't set down roots and develop some, you know, so they were, you know, they basically they moved from place to place and walked and walked and walked. And so if someone got sick or ill or aged or whatever, they just carried them on their back. They didn't leave them behind, you know. And we've gotten a little far from that, haven't we? You know, so but I think that the teachings of trying to help remember how interdependent we are, how we have this basic nature that is compassionate towards others, that doesn't want to see people suffer, that doesn't, you know, that wants to be able to reach out and help, wants to be the superhero. I mean, all these things, that's a good thing. It's something to rejoice in, you know. This is, you know, we're not stuck in the suffering state. We're stuck in suffering states of mind. You know, we have what we need to alter that. It just takes lots of effort. Those things that actually we do every day for other things, You know, we just want to do it for our mind, you know, so. Anyway. So how are you doing? How's your mind? And we want his mind.
Good enough.
Well, it was very helpful.
Good enough.
I'm not so tired anymore. You know, so
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you see, this is what cracks me up about my own practice, you know. I love reading the Dharma. You know, I could be just a permanent student all the time, reading the Dharma, studying the Dharma, taking tests on the Dharma, all that kind of stuff, you know. Now, do I resist picking up a Dharma book? Absolutely. It's like really challenging for me to go, it's stupid. I mean, I can't tell you how much I enjoy it. And yet it's not the first thing I go to. I mean, I'd much rather eat chocolate. You know, it's really, so this is what we're up against. This is why it's not easy to change our habits. We've had our habits since beginningless time, and we just made them stronger, you know? And so when we're trying to overcome those habits, which are beliefs, you know, we have them because we believe they're doing something for us. And so really overcoming that belief, not just supplanting it with a different activity, but thinking about it enough to where you realize it's a lie, you know? Chocolate is not going to make me feel better than reading a Dharma book, you know, so that it becomes, then that's the natural thing we do, you know? So it's just, but it takes, you have to have a lot of force of motivation, intention to act upon the new habit you're wanting to develop, you know,
Like coming here.
like coming here. Absolutely, absolutely. You know, all of these things. It's like, and we got used to COVID not having to go anywhere. You know, so it's like, you know, it's very interesting. You know. Yeah. Anyway, let's do some rejoicing and some prayers. Do, do, do. So think about it's if we start with the prayers on page 246. But think about immediately. So I was going somewhere and I've lost it. And somebody got there faster than me. Not surprised. Okay. To take a moment to think about all the people you know who maybe have health issues right now, who are in hospitals, who are in, you know, whatever, all the people that you really worry about. I mean, just like right at the moment, they happen to be having some kind of difficulty. And then, you know, you think about the people we don't know, but you know that because of their circumstances are having difficulty, you know. And then you think about all the people that seem to not be having difficulty and know that that's temporary, you know. So now you have no one left out. So, you know, so what we want to do is just rejoice in that we have something, we've been doing something that they prove to be of benefit to all these people, that there are countless beings out there who are doing things to directly impact all these people in a beneficial way, you know, that we're working on trying to turn our mind towards things that will help, not things that harm, you know, and that it's all one big family. And we treat each other accordingly. So, you know, so it's just, but it's, so you think about not just the positive things, the positive moments of mind while we've been here together, but all those that have been going on everywhere. Countless beings everywhere, all the different positive things being done, and that all the things that have been done in the past, you know, and then with 100% of confidence, all the things that will happen in the future, because they will, you know, and just think how wonderful that is. And so we're taking all the benefits, the positive actions of that, and dedicating those positive results to be of benefit to others until everybody becomes enlightened and no one is left out. Is this my screen or someone else's? This is not a screen. Okay, I'm playing around my screen. If I can read it. Okay, so, you know, this is a good moment to just feel a little joy. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, attain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of our merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those found be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then for the long life of His Holiness on page 244. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until Safar ends. And then for the quick return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, which is on page 224, 224? 34. 234. That should be easy enough to remember. And you, yeah, thank you, Donna. Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious one, Pravakas and Pratyek, the Buddhas, victorious Losam father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands. Please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teaching through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings. You suddenly departed to peace. What a great grace. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Yay. Okay, so what are the announcements?
The announcements, we have Thursdays in person and online, the Wisdom Energy, Venerable Tendron's continuing with that.
That's a book.
Yeah, well. And we have Venerable Rabina will be here.
2 weeks, 3 weeks? 2 weeks.
Last weekend. Last January.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
doesn't tell me 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
3 4.
This is the 5th.
Three.
3.
We could just give the dates, that might.
I think it's the 24th and 25th.
Yeah.
Thank you,
25th
yes,
is a
the
Saturday.
24th and the 25th. So, and that'll be,
25th and 26th.
so that'll be an all-day Saturday, and Sunday will be,
Regular.
regular, yes, because she's got to go back to the airport. So it'll be a bring your own lunch, we'll have lunch together like we often do, but if you want to
On Saturday,
make plans on Saturday, on the 24th, be here,
25th,
25th, sorry, yes.
whatever that Saturday is, that week.
Yes.
We're
And
so
it's all on
helpful.
our website.
Yeah.
So-
All right.
And Tuesday.
Tuesday, we have
Yes.
medicine Buddha Puja, is
Yes,
that
the
right?
medicine booth.
Okay. Are people who are coming, are there people who could be a backup leader of the practice? I don't know about my neck, so my neck is giving out usually by the late evening, so I just want to
We'll
make.
figure it out.
We'll figure
You'll
it
figure it out,
We'll
because
figure it out.
somebody, because we have, lots of people have the initiation. so
Yes,
You can,
we'll,
you
yeah,
can lead it. So
don't worry.
I plan to be there, but samsara. Anyway, okay. Is that it?
Um,
Happy New Year.
yes,
Okay.
happy New Year.
So thank you, everybody. Thanks,
Thank you.
Nana.